Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Author Acceleration Academy YouTube channel. My name is Krista Dunk, and I lead 100X Publishing and the Author Acceleration Academy, which is an online school and community for self-publishing authors. And today, this is part of our Broken Chapters author interview series of videos. And we get a special guest, one of our authors. Desiree T. Young is with us today, and she is the author of Chapter 10 in Broken Chapters. And her chapter is called From Child of Pain to Child of Love. So welcome, Desiree.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So glad you are here. Yes, I'm enjoying these interviews and just talking to all of our Broken Chapters authors again. And so, by the way, Broken Chapters. This is the book that we are talking about. There are 21 of us that wrote a chapter in this book, and the subtitle is 21 testimonies of how God rewrites our life stories. And so, yes. Desiree, like I said, is chapter 10. And I appreciated the topic that you brought in your chapter, Desiree. And if you don't mind, I would love to just read a little bit of your bio as we get started so people can get to know you more. Okay. Desiree is an author, a speaker, a singer. That's exciting. I love that part. You hold a BA degree in psychology, where you double majored in creative writing and Japanese. Wow, that's pretty awesome too. You lead a chapter of Kingdom Writers Association in your local area in Wisconsin. And you have written several books, actually, besides participating in Broken Chapters. And so I'm going to ask you more about those as we come to the close of the interview, so you can talk about titles, where to buy, and all of those things too, so people can connect with you more on those if they're interested in those books too. And so you also have a clothing collection called Rise. Remember, I'm strong enough. And I think that that's really cool. So I can tell you are someone who just has a lot of ideas, a lot of creativity, and you participate in, and your activities are things that help build people up. I just see that in you. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so let's talk about chapter 10, your chapter, From Child of Pain to Child of Love. Now, that is a topic where you're discussing kind of how you came from a divorced family and some of the things that you dealt with in that. I also come from a divorced family. My parents got divorced when I was 12. And, when you're 12, that's already a difficult age. Things are going on in your life, a lot of change. And so it was hard. So I appreciated that you brought that topic. And so why was it that you wanted to talk about that in your chapter of Broken Chapters?
That's a very good question. So, funny story with how me joining this project came to be. I had been thinking in the back of my head on and off for a couple of months, like, I should write another book and I should talk about times in my life when I've experienced brokenness and how I've learned to lean into God throughout those really difficult times. And I should, offer a resource in the back to help people with it. I should really work on this. And I was thinking back and forth, like, how would I do this? How would I go about it? What would I talk about? And then I saw your Facebook post and you're like, hey, I'm putting together this collaboration called Broken Chapters. Anyone want in? I was like, yes. So I signed up and I was really excited. And I felt that with my particular chapter that I should really hone in on what it was like being a child of divorced parents. I saw my parents through 4 divorces, which was very hard and had a big emotional impact on me. And I know my parents, they loved each other, they loved me, and they did the best they could with their marriage. And they by no means wanted me to go through all of this. but it still had that impact. And I wanted to share, to give voice to other people who have been in similar situations where they are not sure like how to best voice what it was that they were going through. But I also wanted to provide hope for them as well and help them realize that the painful situation that they've been in, it does not have to be their end all be all. I, for one, thought that the pain that I was in, that was all I could expect in life, that I was a child of pain. And anytime something painful came around, I was like, yep, that makes sense. That checks out. That's what my life is supposed to be like, which is really, really sad for being 19 years old. And well, it's sad for any age, but especially at such a young age when you have decades of life ahead of you. And so I really wanted to dive into how God came in to break that mindset off of me and to heal me and also to shower me in love. He did that at a point where I did not think I was lovable. He did that at a point where I desperately wanted it but didn't know how to fully accept or grasp it. Um, so yeah, that was the heart behind me writing that particular chapter.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, that's hard to, like you said, having the expectation that your life is just gonna be pain. I mean, wow. Nobody should have that expectation. You know what I mean? That's just and one of the things that we wanted to do through Broken Chapters really was to give hope to people. Like, okay, here was my situation. I found myself in these circumstances with these feelings, with whatever it was. Um, and here's how God helped me out of that. Here's how God rewrote that chapter of my life. And if he can do it for me, he can do it for you too. So yeah, really good. Yep. Well, you said a lot of things there that I resonate with, and I appreciate you talking about all of those things. And yeah, you're quite upfront about some of the struggles that you had during that time frame, some of the thought processes the stories that you were telling yourself, and just yeah, just a lot of the things. Yeah, anything else you want to mention about that?
Yeah. So throughout the chapter and throughout my college years, one thing that I really struggled with because I was holding on to this pain so much is I had a habit of stuffing that pain down and not actually talking to people about it. And the pain, when it's stuffed down, like it still wants to come out, it still wants to be expressed. There's a quote in the book, The Fault in Our Stars, that says pain demands to be felt. And it was like, yeah, that's
Wow.
very, very true. And for me, that pain was starting to come through in the form of self injury ideation. And with self injury ideation, for those of you at home who don't know what that is the fixation or thought of wanting to harm oneself with either a razor or a knife, or like some people that I talked to in college, they would burn themselves. And it was a way of trying to alleviate pain, alleviate emotional pain, and distract ourselves from it. Um, to someone who has a healthy mindset, that you look at that and think, I'm sorry, you thought what? Why was that a good idea?
Solve pain with
But for
more
some,
pain. How does
yes.
right.
But for someone who is in a very emotionally raw state, someone who feels like they are at the bottom of the pit, what do, what to us might not look like a good solution looks like a good solution. And
Oh,
one thing that I'm very grateful for in the time that I was in college is I had a mentor who I shared this with, and she listened to me. She prayed with me, and she led me through a study of Song of Solomon. And Song of Solomon reads for us like an allegory of Christ's love for the church. And so throughout the study, I got to learn more about what it means to be part of the bride of Christ. And with that study, it was an in-depth study. When I say in-depth, I mean like after 3 weeks of meeting, we were still in chapter one and like the first half of chapter one. It was continuing.
that is in depth.
Yes,
But it sounds like
very
it was impactful. I mean, you're still even talking about it now.
yes, it
Right?
was absolutely amazing, and I got to see myself, like, through the bride's different stages. And chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "I am dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem." And the bride is referring to herself as dark because of the sin in her life. And for me, I felt dark because of all the pain in my life.
Mm,
And there was this moment, it was like dark but lovely. She still added lovely to that. But what does that mean? What does that look like? So I got to explore that a bit more in my college years. And as I continued going throughout the chapter, there in chapter 2, there's a verse 14. It says, "Oh my dove, in the clefts of the rock and the crannies of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely." um, Krista mentioned earlier that I like to sing. I still to this day like to sing, but I was often told, like, "Hey, we don't want to hear that racket. Quiet down, pipe down." And to read through those verses and hear God saying, "Hey, I love your voice," that was really powerful for me. And I started slowly but surely started seeing myself the way that God was seeing me as his beloved bride. And it was absolutely beautiful and very monumental, and helped me shed that identity of pain. Because what groom is looking at his bride and says, "All I want for you is pain and suffering"? Like, no good groom is looking at his bride and thinking that or saying that.
no.
So I that helped me also see him in a different light, because my thought of God was like, "Oh yeah, he's God. He's up in the air and in heaven. He's looking down on us, and like he cares, I guess." But like I don't know why, because X, Y, or Z, I'm a complete and total mess. Like, I used to believe that I was too broken or too much of a mess for God to actually love, or for God to actually fix.
Wow.
Doing that study of Song of Solomon helped me see, like, I'm not too broken, I'm not too far gone, I am not hopeless. It was so powerful, and I cannot thank this mentor enough for taking the time to go through that with me.
Yeah. Sounds like it really gave you the opportunity to see yourself in a different way, like to get a new perspective on your own self and who
Mhm.
you are. And even just who God is. Sounds like you got to know him more too, and his characteristics, and that he wasn't some distant being somewhere that was aloof and doesn't care, that he
Mhm.
is actually loves you and he does want good things for you. And so, wow, that, I mean, if people could just have that perspective alone and then build on that, that could just be life changing. And so, yeah, and you mentioned that quote that you talked about in your chapter about feeling too broken to be fixed, for like God can't do anything with this mess. I think probably there are people who have that same thought. And so what would you tell to those people who are thinking that, and what was the process, God, besides that study, what else was there?
So the process with that, there was a moment my sophomore year of college where everything just like clicked for me. um, where I realized, like, yes, I am loved, I am treasured, I am thought of, I am cared for. And it was absolutely amazing. Um, what happened my sophomore year in the spring semester, I was involved in an organization called University Christian Fellowship, and they had their Tuesday night large group gathering. So I had gone to that gathering, and there was a speaker there. To this day, I do not remember what he was there to talk about. He might have been there to talk about evangelism. I really do not know. What I remember is this 5-minute tangent that he went on that had nothing to do with his topic. And in that 5-minute tangent, he is talking about love and dating and relationships. And there was a specific question that I had that I never voiced to anyone. The only person that knew that I had this question was God, because he was the only person that I asked this. And when the speaker is going off on his tangent that has nothing to do with this topic, he answered my question. And this was like 7 months after I had initially asked. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Like it all came flooding back to me. I was so excited that I wanted to run through my dorm hallway, just like screaming, like, Jesus loves me, Jesus loves me. The fact that he cared so much to make sure that this question got answered for me. And what's also amazing is that oftentimes we ask God questions, and sometimes we can get impatient when we don't get an answer right away. And I don't know why God chooses to answer sometimes right away or sometimes later down the road, but I do know that if we listen and are patient, he will answer whatever question it is that we have. And it's beautiful and awesome and amazing. So if you're watching this today and you have a question for God, go ahead and ask. He is not afraid of your questions. Go ahead and ask, and he will respond to you. He'll respond either personally or he will respond through another person. He might respond within that day, he might respond a few months later, but he will respond because he cares for you. He loves you and he is listening. His ears are not close to you. He's listening to you. He hears every single word that you said. He sees every single tear that you've cried. He's listening. And he cares and he loves you so, so, so deeply, so personally. The really funny thing is the speaker that answered my question, he thought he was doing that tangent for our large group coordinator at the time who had just gotten engaged. That was for me. Because she's sitting there thinking like, yep, I know this, wrap it up. This is not your topic. Please get back to normal scheduled programming.
But that was just what you needed. And you knew at that moment that God was answering your question. And so you felt seen by him because of that. And like, oh my gosh, you heard my question. You're answering. Like there's that verse that's like, I sought the Lord and he answered me and delivered me from fears, and yeah, to know that he hears and he cares. That's just some of those evidences that we can have in our lives to look back on, like, yep, I sought him, he answered, he cares, he saw me, he, I don't know, just the longer you live, I feel like I'm a little older than you, Desiree. And so I can just look back at so many things in my life. And I was telling my kids this a while back, like when you get to my age and you have been walking with the Lord and you just can see how many times you can just like go back in the files and see all of the times, like, yep, he answered that. Yep, he worked that out. Yep, he, you just see the evidence of him more and more. And so I feel like when we're walking with him and we're trusting him, I love that the evidence builds up in our lives for us to go back and see, even to encourage our own selves at times, which we do need. So yeah, I love that. So no one is too broken. No one has too much of, too much mess, too much pain. Like if anybody can do anything about it, it's God, and he can do something that is complete and full and not just a band-aid and all of those things in our lives, which I'm so thankful for. So anything else you want to say about that topic? And I'd also like to ask you kind of what you're up to now and talk about your other books too, but feel free if you have anything else that you wanted to say about that, please do.
Yeah. Can I actually read an excerpt from another book that I wrote that also answers your question?
Sure, perfect.
All right. So this is from my book, Winning the Silent Battle, Exposing 8 Lies Hindering Your Mental Health. And in this book, I wanted to talk about mental health, but I also wanted to talk about faith as well and show that there is room for both in the conversation, not just one or the other. And in chapter 3, at the end of it, I have what I call a letter from Abba. And I have a few of these throughout the book. And this particular one is titled A Letter of Hope. And it says, "My dear child, it was never my intent that you would go through so much pain. It was never my intent that you would have these holes in your heart. I am so sorry for the pain you've been through. I am sorry for all the disappointments that you've endured. Will you allow me to heal the broken places in your heart? Will you allow me to fill them with my gold lacquer? Will you allow me to bring you joy again? Will you allow me to love you completely, intimately, and fiercely? I love you. I love you. Here's a glorious crown of life that I want to place on your head. There's a beautiful garment of purple that I want to place around your shoulders. You are my beloved. You are my treasure. I delight in you. I was not in the voices that tried to silence yours, but I am here with you now. I've always been with you, with my arms wrapped around you. I've never left you. In the darkest moments that you faced, you were not there alone. I was there with you. I was holding your hand. I will carry you through every darkness. I will carry you through every pain into the light if you let me. I love you. I love you so much. Will you let me bring you into a place of healing and wholeness? It is my desire that you would be whole and be fully who I created you to be: beautiful, strong, brave, holy, loved. You are so loved. I am here always. Sincerely, your kingly father."
Beautiful. That was like a combination of beautifulness, encouragement, and truth, all wrapped up in a message. I love how you crafted that to be a message from the Father to the reader, and that's wonderful. I love it. I love it so much. So please tell us about that book again.
Yes, it's called Winning the Silent Battle. And in it, I detail some of my struggles with mental health, the struggle I had with perfectionism, anxiety, self injury ideation, and an addiction. I don't highlight the addiction like too much, but I do mention it because those often go hand in hand with mental health. And let's be honest, you can write an entire book on just how to overcome addictions there.
Yeah.
But throughout the book, it's a short read. And throughout it, I share my own personal experiences and struggles with it. I also share a few pop culture references and a few letters from Abba sprinkled through it as well, to offer a voice of hope for people who are struggling with those same things, and to help them see what's keeping them stuck in that. Because oftentimes we tell ourselves things that are not true about different struggles that we may have. And so I expose each of the lies that were keeping me trapped and often keep other people trapped.
It's really good. I'm glad you said that too, that it's for people who maybe are dealing with those types of issues right now too. So I was going to say, who's the audience like that would best love that book? But yeah, you can answer that. So thank you. Well, okay, tell us about your other books as well.
Yeah. So my very first book that I wrote that started me on my author journey is called Kaleidoscope: A Journey to Hope. It is a fiction novel about human trafficking that takes place in
Wow.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is told from the point of view of four girls that are in it that are trying to get out and restart their lives. I wanted to share the story to raise awareness. I also wanted to have it be palatable, so there's not, like scenes or anything like that. I get that question a lot with this book.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to show God's heart for justice.
Mhm.
Human trafficking is something that I read a lot about in college, studied a lot, did a lot of papers. I even knew a girl when I was in college who had been trafficked. And I share a little bit of her story in the back of the book. I don't share her name because she's asked to keep that private, and I respect her decision there. I was able to talk with her and pray with her, and God brought a miracle about. In talking and praying with her, a week went by, and there was one day that I was fasting for her to get free.
Mm.
And the following week that I saw her, she comes up to me and she says, "Did you pray for me?" And yes, I did. She's like, "Police came." And I got out. I got 5 other girls out with me. And I was like, "Thank you, Jesus." Like that was, it
Wow.
was amazing. And oh
Breakthrough.
man,
Oh,
so,
wow.
so good, so awesome. And she's doing a lot better now. Life has ups and downs for her as it does for every person, but she's in a much healthier place. And she's able to work full time, and yeah, she's
Wow.
doing well there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. And do you have any other books that you want to mention? And I would also love it if you could share with our listeners and watchers how people can connect with you more and what you're up to these days.
Yeah. So I have a book coming out. It's actually the start of a fantasy series. So the
Ooh,
fantasy series is called The Dragon's Well. And I'm a huge nerd and I love fantasy.
a
And
lot of
I've
people do.
honestly
That's good.
been,
That's good.
yes. I've been toying with this idea for about a year now, trying to develop it, figure out what it is that I want it to be. And I settled on, okay, this is going to be a series, might have a novella here or there, but there are going to be 3 main books. And the first book is going to be a novella called Escaping the Tyrant. And it's going to be your introduction into the Dragon's Well. And I'm so excited about it. It's being worked on right now. I don't have a full release date yet. I'm hoping it'll be out by Christmas. That might be a little too ambitious. We'll see.
But you're working it. You're working it.
Yes.
Wow. So that's your first book, and there's going to be at least 2 more, it sounds like.
Mhm.
And that's exciting. Okay, so and do you have a website where people can like connect with you, or where would you like to direct people if they want to learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, you can check out my website. It is called thevaultofthescribe.com, and it'll direct you to another website with a different URL. But it's still all me. But that is everything that you can see about my books. There are a couple other podcast appearances that I've been able to make that you'll be able to access there as well. There may or may not be a couple free downloads available if you check it out. Maybe, probably, there definitely
Mhm.
are.
Free downloads, yes. So the vaultofthescribe.com. I wrote that down.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Wow, this is wonderful. Okay, we're going to wrap up our interview here, but is there anything else, like any last thought that you would want to share with someone who's been listening today? And yeah, what would you like to encourage them with, Desiree?
The last thing I would encourage you with is my theme song. So, my theme song is called Rewrite Your Story by Kaylee Bishop. And there's a part of it that goes, I believe it's the chorus. You can rewrite your story, you can turn pain to glory and make your way out of the dark. You don't have to face this lonely. I promise you're not the only one working through a wounded heart. You can rewrite your story.
Mm,
And that is what I would encourage you with. Whatever hand you've been dealt, whatever painful experience that you may be going through, it's a bad chapter, but it's not the end of the book of your life. So keep going
exactly.
because your story can be rewritten.
Exactly. Yes. Like give God the pen and tell him that you'd like to do some rewriting and just see what happens. Yeah. That broken chapter will be rewritten. I love that. I love that so much. Oh, Desiree T. Young. Thank you so much for being on today. I've loved this interview. I've loved having you a part of the Broken Chapters Project. And yeah, I love what you're doing with all of your writing. It's very exciting. So thank you again for being on today.
Yes, thank you for having me. This has been such a wonderful adventure. So wonderful.
It is. I agree. I like just living a life with God at the center is an adventure, and getting to be an author is a wonderful adventure too in itself. And so just so rewarding. So good job. You're doing good work, Desiree. You're doing very good work. So I honor you with that, and thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, well, thank you for watching this interview, Broken Chapters author interview series with Desiree T. Young today from chapter 10 of our Broken Chapters book. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time on our next interview, and bye for now.